I'm here with Cas Wouters, who is an expert on figurational sociology, and he was a long-term friend of Norbert Elias, and who has done himself a substantial contribution to figurational research. And yes, I want to learn more about him and his experience. So, well, let's begin at the beginning. When did you come in touch with Norbert Elias or his kind of sociology?
I think it was already in the first year of studying because of Professor Den Hollander, Arie Den Hollander. He used to talk at least once in a while on Norbert Elias's work, and I also visited or was a member of the group, the seminar by him, where Joop was his assistant. So in the first year already, in the '64, I came to meet Joop. And well, you know, for Joop, when he had to give a lecture, he liked to talk about Elias too. So from those two sources, I came to hear about him, but it was never as important in the beginning as Parsons, for example. Because Parsons was the established one, and I read Parsons, and well, that was later. It was '68, I guess, '67, '68. Directly after the candidaats, I became an assistant.
Oh yeah.
And I assisted Lily van Rijswijk-Klerks, who started to research into. Well, the main question was, why are there now so many crashes springing up from nothing in the Netherlands and elsewhere too? But we focused on the Netherlands, and she eventually narrowed the focus to 3 neighborhoods in Amsterdam where crashes were established. And then I asked, could I take your lecturing because that was too narrow for me. I didn't like to continue with doing the research but in the beginning I thought it was beautiful question, beautiful research. It was an entry to changing relations between men and women and between parents and children. And that has been my topic for as long as I live. Telling how I met Norbert, and I think it was after I took over the task from the woman who started this research on the many sorts of crashes that were established, and I took over her teaching, and then Joop Graatsblom asked me whether I could, because and that could have been could become part of my job, to assist him in the sociology of literature. Was a seminar, and the sociology of morals. And in the sociology of morals, I mean that I accepted to do that, and I gave a seminar myself on the crashes. And well, the crashes as a manifestation or as a symptom of the integration of the sexes and the segregation of the I don't know what. But there was some such title. I enjoyed myself, and I invited Norbert later when I had met him in the sociology of morals. That was a course from Joop Graatsblom. And so I invited Norbert to give a lecture there. I still have the stencil report that I made from it, and that was the time when he made this drawing where the line goes down, the line of increasing rigidity of codes, increasing social constraints on self-restraint, and well, what I showed in this thing I once received, and then he really thought that it was possible that he really thought that the possibility of the civilizing curve going down was there, and it had been going down from the end of the 19th century in this drawing.
Is this where the time you came in contact with Norbert?
He was invited to the seminar of Joop, the seminar on the sociology of morals, and I had at that time I asked him, "I've heard you are a very wise man. How did you become such a wise man?" And that is a story that I have. Well, it's in my book on formalization. It's one of the appendixes that tells this story, and well, there you can follow how it continued. But this was, I think, 1968.
So this time Norbert Elias himself was not well known. He was not famous as we became later.
No, but there was a rumor. There was a wind blowing through the institute, the sociological institute, and the historical institute. That here was somebody with great potential to become famous.
Okay. Yeah, and you came very early in contact. You are about 10 years younger than Joop Rautsblum, and was he at this time a kind of mentor to you, or how did you achieve the position from a normal student to become a lecturer? How did this happen? You were very, very good, obviously, in university.
I tried to tell you that when my boss, who was focusing on the spread of various crashes, a variety of crashes, when she narrowed her topic to 3 neighborhoods and started to do questionnaires asking how do you want one and what should it she narrowed it down to an extent that I lost my interest, and I asked her to take over her educational her tasks, and then Joop asked me to come and help him too.
Okay.
And that was because the assistant he had fell ill, and so he needed someone, and I was happy to help him. Also because already in the first year of my study, I had met him as an assistant of Arie de Hollander, and we had a good relationship.
And you liked him, yes.
I liked him, and I always had a special relationship with him too, because I was not afraid of his shyness. I mean, many people, they become a bit shy themselves because he drops silence. It's moments of silence, and what do? I start if I don't.
You start talking when
I start talking when he falls silent, and so for me it was no problem.
Wonderful. And you learned more about Norbert Elias at this time, and you asked Norbert Elias, and Norbert Elias, how often was he coming to Amsterdam at this time?
Oh, I don't know.
Had you a room here somewhere?
No, this is well, in between there is a moment, there is a period where he was coming to Amsterdam regularly. I don't know how often it was, maybe once a month, once in 2 months, for a couple of days. Then he stayed a bit longer, and then he was always invited with Joop and Renate Rubinstein and the people from from the established people and the assistants. I started to throw party for Norbert for the assistants, for the younger people, for the students. And he liked the idea. He came, and
he was dancing.
Yeah, he was dancing too.
Oh, okay.
And so that was when I got to know him better. And after a while, when he was coming, my neighbor, my upper floor neighbor, moved, and I made everything ready so I could ask him, would you like to have this apartment? And so he came at 77 or 76, I think 76, but I'm not sure. I still have the meeting contract that he and I signed.
Okay.
And that lasted for about a year. He had then he came, when he came to Amsterdam, he came to his own apartment, and no longer was in need of hotel.
And this were the times of, yes, I don't want to say partying, but he had a good time with people like Renate Rubinstein, you mentioned, Bram van Stolk, Rudolf Knief, and so. And these were the people who were surrounding him as well. You were there.
Bram van Stolk and Rudolf. Rudolf came later.
Rudolf came later, okay.
And Bram was with somebody else, and we called André Schotman, for the record. André and Truus and Norbert and Bram. We also went on a trip to in the neighborhood of Strasbourg.
Ah, okay. Baden-Baden or where you?
No, not in Germany, in France.
Okay, near to Alsace, somewhere.
Alsace.
Yeah, Alsace. Yeah.
Alsace.
Yeah.
And we had walks and talks, and it was pleasant. But Bram was also not among the established at that time. So Bram would come to my parties and not to Joop's parties.
Yeah, he was in your age about.
Yeah.
But he and Norbert, they liked each other a lot, and up to the point that Bram, he became one of the closest friends of Norbert, to say, and he later on became one of the board members, and they had a special relation at some point, I think.
Yeah, they had a special relation,
Yeah.
but not a sexual relation. Is that what you mean?
No, I don't mean this.
Oh.
But I'm very fascinated, and of course I'm unhappy because he died so early. Bram van Stolk. He knew him as well, very good, and not as close as you do. But
I was there in their neighborhood quite often, so I think I advised Norbert against taking on Rudolf as an assistant.
Okay.
I told Norbert, that makes you so much dependent upon Bram.
Yeah.
Can you stand that? Can you?
Yeah.
I remember that, and he thought he could because he accepted Rudolf as his assistant. So I was too worried. But that kind of closeness was there, that we could discuss this. He appreciated my sociology.
Yeah.
I was very close to what he was writing and what he had written.
Yeah.
I could absorb it like it was mine, and I made it mine very easily.
Yeah.
And I think he also appreciated very, very strongly the article that I then wrote in '76 on on the question, has the civilizing process changed direction? And that was the launch of the concept of informalization. And he immediately saw, I mean, I had published the article in Amsterdam Sociologisch Tijdschrift. That was the Dutch, it was quite famous for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I made a translation of it myself.
Yeah.
And he said, "Can I help you to make this article?" And so he came to Amsterdam, and after I'd sent him my translation, and he said, "We made an appointment, work on it." Sorry.
No.
And then, to my surprise, he started dictating.
Okay.
So, but that was I stopped him.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, what are you doing?" "It's your article," he said. "It's your article. It's not. No. I only help you in this way because I think that is really helping.
Yeah.
I mean, you help me. Take it as an appreciation for what you did." And so I did. And you can do with it whatever you want, whatever you like. And so I did a little. I changed it a little because he was not emphasizing some parts of my story enough. I thought the parts that he kept underestimating for the rest of his life.
What did you do after Norbert died? Did you ignore this part, or do you follow his kind of sociology? Did you do some biographical stuff? What was your relation after 1990 to him and his kind of sociology?
It's strange to say, maybe, but apart from the fact that he was no longer there was no change.
So you did the same kind of sociology research?
Yeah.
And you had lost one friend,
I always had, from the beginning, I had, my interest was sexuality, the relationship in which this sex, mainly men and women, and parents and children, that has remained my main topic. And then after my divorce and my missing of my children, I was mourning, and I made a study of mourning and dying, and I, together with a friend, we went to the dissection room and wrote a study on what was happening there. And
so very, very empirical research.
Empirical research, yeah. And the theoretical research.
Yeah.
Well, there was always theoretical additions and theoretical novelty in because that is the advantage of. I think I worked in the same way as Norbert often had worked, and like the institution where the women, the refuge home, as an entry to much more, because it was much more. I mean, it was the first time that people, women, could do such a thing. It was I've been there.
Wonderful.
And this too. The section room is an entry into the world of mourning and dying.
But in the recent years, to get to de-democratization and state formation processes more, or is this related to this kind of research between the sexes?
The I came to write on functional democratization because Stephen, and later I discovered also Behruz Alikani and Nico Wilderding were writing or using the concept of functional de-democratization, and I thought, it started with a gut feeling. This sounds so ugly and it is so wrong, and but so I started with finding out what functional democratization actually meant, because I had never used. I had a vague idea, but only a vague idea, and I had by that time I had already received the collected a full range of 18 volumes of the collected works, and so you can look up where this concept is used, and so I started by locating and recording what Norbert Elias has done with this concept, what it meant, and then I looked up what these others had meant with functional de-democratization, and I decided there is nothing functional in this de-democratization. De-democratization is probably something that comes along when the fat cats, the rich commercial finance people became more strong, and that happened in the 80s.
1980s,
and they became so strong that also because they could take their money and even their industries to cheap labor countries.
Different countries,
So they were not like the people in the centers of politics. They were tied to the country where they have their voters. But these people in the world of money, they could fly away, and so the balance of power between politicians and diplomats on the one hand, and the captains of industry and the CEOs and all that, this was shifting, and so because this whole idea of a shifting balance of power in global interdependencies, but because this was a global interdependency network, that was so important that it became it was important enough for me to put my teeth in the topic and have a discussion on it, but it started with my doubts about functional de-democratization, but I think I will never use the term again.
Okay.
It's confusing and wrong.
Okay. How much is this related to Elijah and sociology, or how much is this Cas Wouters on his own?
No, this is very much Elijah sociology, I think.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I told Stephen also. Stephen, you invent something and you call it the de-democratization. You call it functional de-democratization, but the functional has no meaning. And while the functional is exactly the centerpiece of Norbert Elias' theory. Interdependenzvlechtwerken. That networks of interdependency. Those are interdependencies via social functions that people perform for each other, and their organization. And so if you make this functional. If you call this term, if you invent this term and if you, like this, you create a word two words where the one word functional, which is the centerpiece of Elias's theory, has no more meaning. You make it meaningless only as a tribute to the. So that maybe you can hear. No. I can hear in my voice that this excites me. That
yeah. So you say it's a very current sociology concept, what Norbert Elias did, and you say it has a future. It's not that you say civilizing process was a concept which is outdated. No, you say it continues. Civilizing process.
But the civilizing process it draws attention to the psychic process side. The reader that the title of the reader that I have in mind of producing is Civilization and Informalization, connecting social and psychic processes.
Okay.
And the psychic process, the civilization is what what draws attention to the
reader. The audience.
No. Civilization draws attention to the balance of social and self-constraint.
Yeah.
That is the centerpiece of the civilizing book.
Okay.
I mean, it's increasing. Well, again, this line that goes up. The increasing pressure and increasing demands on self-regulation, on self-steering.
Right. And it's still continuing.
It is still continuing, yeah. Well, like now you have discussions about Me Too. Is it continuing? Will it continue? Doesn't Catherine Deneuve have a point and all that? But but the whole, on the whole, the movement is endorsed by this discussion. So it is continuing. This is a continued egalization of women and men in their flirting.